여러분 안녕하세요. Hello everyone. Welcome back to Korean Fluency Journey. 여러분, we started talking about the topic of particles in Korean, 조사. We studied subject particle, 이 and 가, right? And today we are going to look at object particle, 을 or 를. Maybe you are already familiar with these particles, 을을. So yeah, without further ado, let's get started. So first of all, let's look at what it means, object particle, right? So object particle, it can also be called in Korean 목적격 조사. So it's like, and it shows the object of the verb. So when we have an object in a sentence, we need to add a certain particle to that object. And the object is what or whom the action is done to. So the person or any kind of thing that kind of receives a certain type of action. So that is the object, right? For example, in English, we say, I eat an apple, right? So the apple is the object of the sentence. I buy a computer. So a computer is the object of the sentence. So these kind of things. So in Korean, to these words like computer, apple, you need to add a certain particle. So in English, word order decides everything, right? But in Korean, you need to pay attention more to the object, to the particle. So, and it answers the question, what and whom. If it's a person, whom, and if it's a thing or an object is what. So it has two forms. So the first one is 을 and the second one is 를. So what is the difference between 을 and 를? So if a noun ends with a consonant, so consonant letter, you need to use 을. So for example here, 책을 읽어요. I read a book. 책을 읽어요. Why we use 을? Because the word noun 책 ends with 기억. So 기억 is a consonant, so that's why we need to use 을. 책을 읽어요. I read a book. What about 를? So it's if a noun ends with a vowel letter, right? So you need to use 을. So we say 사과를 먹어요. So we don't say 사과를 먹어요. We say 사과를 먹어요. 사과를 먹어요. So here is the object particle 를, because 와 is also considered as a vowel letter. So that's why we say 사과를. I eat an apple. So two forms, 을 and 를. So now let's look at the structure, how we make sentences using object. So, so in English, so you would say subject, right, first, and it comes verb and then object, right? But in Korean, so you need to first use, let me change the color, subject. So, and then you use an object. So that's the word order, subject, object, and the verb is usually at the end of the sentence. So it becomes S, object, V, right? Subject, object, and verb. So that's the typical simple sentence structure in Korean. So let's look at an example sentence. So 저는 영화를 봐요. 저는. So 저는 is the subject, I, right? So I watch. I watch. So the verb is at the end of the sentence, as you see. That's more natural. It's not always the case, but that's how Koreans say. That's how it sounds more natural in speech. So that's why we always say like the verb at the end of the sentence. And the object is in the middle. So 영화를. 영화를. Why we use 를? Because 영화 is 와 is a vowel letter. So that's why we say 영화를, not 영화를. This is wrong. 영화를 봐요. I watch a movie. So a movie is an object. So in English, it's very easy because the word order it tells you where the object is, right? So that's after the verb. But in Korean, you need to look at those particles. Well, even if I say like this, so the object is in the middle and the verb at the end of the sentence, but it's not always the case because sometimes Korean native speakers, they drop these 를 in speech. So, and it's very common and it's very natural in speech. Of course, when you are doing a written work, right, like a 쓰기, right, writing exercise, or you're taking an exam, it's not recommended to drop these particles. You need to use them. You should use, because if you drop them, maybe you will be deducted. The point will be deducted. So, but in natural speech, usually Koreans, they drop it. So they would say, 저는 저 영화 봐요. Even they don't use the subject particles, right? So 저 영화 봐요. 저 영화 봤어요. So that's more natural. So it's very conversational, but I prefer using them also in my speech. Also, when I don't do writing, I also say 뭐뭐를 식사를 했어요. 식사하셨어요. But sometimes, yeah, it all depends. Even when you are in a Korean society, right, working, living with Korean people, sometimes you start imitating, you start speaking the same way as they do. So yeah, that's why dropping is more natural. Okay. And I have two practice exercises for you to check your knowledge. So the first one is very easy. So you need to choose the right particle, 을 or 를, depending on the last letter of a noun. So if it's a consonant ending noun, you need to use 을, right? 책을. But if it's a vowel ending noun, you need to use 를. 사과를, 친구를. So there are, I guess, 10 sentences here. So you can check. And if you want to check your answer, you can just leave your answers in the comments section so I can check and give my feedback. And the second extra practice exercise would be the translation from English to Korean. When I was learning English, I did a lot of translation exercises from Russian into English, and it really helped me to master the grammar structures. So I also did the same thing with my Korean, and I also, when I teach my students, I also recommend them to practice with more like translation exercises, because it helps you to practice your vocabulary. You try to search, look up them in the dictionary if you don't know a certain word, and also try to make the sentence so that becomes more habitual, and it will come up easily when you are involved in conversation. So yeah, very simple sentences, 10 I guess, 10 sentences, 5 here and 5 here. So you can just translate it into Korean using, of course, the right particle, right object particle. So I eat rice. So 쌀을 먹어요 or 밥을 먹어요. So you can say like this. I drink water. So I say 저는 물을 마셔요. 저는 물을 마셔요. Right? So you can do like this. And yeah, that's it for today's video, and I hope you will find this video helpful, and topic of particles, helpful as well. And if you have any questions or suggestions, ideas, and you're always welcome. Thank you so much for watching my videos and for support, and that really means a lot to me. Thank you so much. I'll see you in my next videos. Bye!